Welcome to Story Planet, where every tale is a journey and every night is a cozy escape. Here, we bring you stories that warm your heart, soothe your mind, and carry you to peaceful places filled with wonder. Sit back, relax, and let the world around you fade away as we embark on another tranquil adventure. Tonight's story is one of connection, tradition, and the quiet magic of a winter's night. We hope you find comfort in the companionship of this tale, just as Henry finds comfort in his beloved radio, Henry and the Radio. On a wind-swept hilltop, where the snow fell gently and the trees stood tall and silent, there sat a small wooden cottage. This cottage, made of sturdy logs and warmed by a crackling fire, was a place of quiet solitude. The winter nights were long and cold, but inside, the air was filled with the comforting warmth of the fire and the soft glow of lamplight. The cottage was modest, with just enough space for its single occupant, but it held a secret, a companion that made the long nights bearable. In this cottage lived a man named Henry. Henry was a man of few words, content with his solitary life on the hill. He had lived there for many years, finding peace in the quiet routine of his days. His life was simple but fulfilling, rooted in the natural rhythms of the seasons and the land around him. Henry worked in a nearby orchard, where he helped tend the apple trees, prune the branches, and harvest the fruit when it was ripe. The orchard was not just a source of work, but a way of life, connecting him to the earth and the changing seasons. For his labor in the orchard, Henry was paid not in money, but in goods: freshly baked bread, jars of honey, bags of flour, and other essentials that made his life in the cottage comfortable. Money had no place in Henry's world. He had never seen it, never needed it, and wasn't even sure if it held any value. To him, the true wealth was in the things he could touch, taste, and use. The bread he baked from flour, the honey that sweetened his tea, the warmth of the fire fueled by wood he had gathered himself. Everything he needed came from nature or his hard work, and that was enough. He lived a life rich in simplicity, where the concept of money seemed distant and unnecessary. Every morning, Henry would rise with the sun, the pale light filtering through the frosted windows. He would dress warmly and make the short walk to the orchard, the cold air crisp against his skin. The work was hard, but satisfying, and Henry found contentment in the rhythm of the days, the cycle of growth and harvest. After finishing his tasks, he would return to his cottage with his wages: bread still warm from the oven, honey from the hives he helped tend, and sometimes a few extra treats, like a slice of cake or a handful of apples. Henry's connection to the land extended to his own small garden, where he grew vegetables and herbs to supplement what he received from the orchard. The garden was small, but thriving, a testament to Henry's care and connection to the land. In the summer, he would harvest the fruits of his labor, drying herbs and preserving vegetables to sustain him through the winter months. His diet was simple but nourishing, reflecting his contentment with what was naturally available to him. One of Henry's favorite routines was making tea. The hills around his cottage offered a variety of wild herbs, each with its own distinct flavor. He would gather leaves of mint, chamomile, or lemon balm, drying them carefully and storing them in glass jars. Each evening, he would choose a blend, brewing the tea in a simple kettle over the fire. The aroma would fill the cottage, mingling with the scent of pine logs burning in the hearth, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort. Henry's evenings were a time of quiet reflection. After a day spent working with his hands, tending to the small tasks that kept his life running smoothly, he would prepare a simple meal. Perhaps a stew made with vegetables from his garden, seasoned with wild herbs, or a loaf of bread baked with the flour he received from the orchard. Once his meal was ready, he would eat by the fire, savoring each bite, grateful for the abundance the land provided. After dinner, he would brew his tea, pour it into his favorite cup, and settle into his armchair by the fire. The radio, always ready, would sit on the table beside him, waiting for the moment when Henry was ready to listen. The radio was more than just an object to Henry. It was a friend, a storyteller, a keeper of memories that filled the quiet hours of the night. Tonight was one of those nights. The snow outside had turned the world into a silent, white expanse, and the only sound inside the cottage was the gentle crackling of the fire. But tonight felt different. There was something special in the air, a sense that the story the radio would tell would be unlike any other. Henry sat down in his chair, feeling the warmth of the teacup in his hands, and the radio, sensing the moment, came to life. "Good evening, Henry," the radio's voice greeted him. The voice was familiar, comforting, like that of an old friend who had come to visit. It carried with it the weight of countless stories told over the years, each one carefully chosen to suit the night's mood. But tonight, the voice seemed even warmer, almost nostalgic. "Tonight, I have a story for you, a tale that is close to my heart, one that has been passed down through generations, just as I have." Henry leaned back in his chair, letting the warmth of the fire and the radio's voice wash over him. He knew this story would be special. The radio's voice began to weave its tale, speaking in a low, melodic tone that seemed to blend seamlessly with the crackling of the fire. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled deep in a snowy valley, there was a young girl named Eliza. Eliza lived with her grandmother in a cozy cottage, not unlike this one. Her grandmother was known throughout the village for her stories filled with magic, adventure, and wisdom. Every night, as the fire crackled in the hearth, Eliza would curl up by her grandmother's side, listening intently as she spun tales of distant lands and forgotten times. Henry could picture the scene in his mind. A warm cottage, a young girl with wide eyes, and an old woman with a voice full of wisdom. It reminded him of the comfort he found in his own cottage, with his radio by his side. But as the years passed, the radio continued. Eliza's grandmother grew older, and her voice began to fade. The stories became fewer, and soon the cottage was filled with a quiet that Eliza had never known before. She missed her grandmother's voice, the way it made her feel safe and loved. But then, one cold winter's night, as the snow piled up outside and the wind howled through the trees, Eliza discovered something hidden away in a dusty corner. A small, old radio. Henry's eyes flicked to his own radio, sitting quietly beside him. He felt a connection to the story, as if the radio was revealing a part of its own past. Eliza didn't know where the radio had come from, the voice continued, but something about it felt comforting, familiar, as if it had been waiting for her all along. She turned the dial, not knowing what to expect, and to her surprise, the radio came to life. A voice filled the room, warm, rich, and full of the same wisdom she had always heard from her grandmother. The radio began to tell her a story, just like the ones her grandmother used to tell, and from that night on, it became her faithful companion. Henry felt a warmth spread through him, not just from the fire, but from the realization that the radio in his cottage had been passed down through the years, bringing comfort and stories to those who needed them most. The same voice that had once comforted Eliza now spoke to him, continuing a tradition that spanned generations. The radio stayed with Eliza as she grew older, the voice said softly. It was with her through all the seasons of her life, always ready to share a story when the nights grew long and the world outside seemed cold and distant. And when Eliza's time came, she passed the radio on, knowing that it would continue to bring warmth and comfort to those who needed it. Henry's heart swelled with emotion. He understood now why tonight felt so special. The radio was sharing its own story, revealing its journey from Eliza's cottage to his own. The radio had been a companion to many, and now it was his turn to carry on the tradition. The radio, the voice continued, has always been a faithful friend, bringing light and warmth to even the darkest of nights. And tonight, as the snow falls outside and the fire burns low, I am here with you, Henry, to continue that tradition. This story is not just mine, but yours as well. A story of connection, of continuity, and of the quiet magic that lives in the heart of a winter's night. The radio's voice grew even softer, almost a whisper. And remember, Henry, no one is ever truly alone in this world. We are all connected by the stories we share, by the warmth we give and receive. Tonight, as the snow falls and the world grows silent, know that you are part of something much larger, a thread in the tapestry of life that stretches across time and space. As the radio finished its tale, Henry opened his eyes, feeling a deep sense of contentment. The fire had burned low, and the cottage was filled with a soft, golden light. The radio's gentle hum filled the room, a reminder that it was always there, always ready to share another story. "Thank you," Henry whispered, his voice barely audible over the crackling of the fire. The fire dwindled to a gentle glow as the snow softly blanketed the world outside. Henry drifted into a deep, contented sleep, knowing he wasn't alone. The radio, ever faithful, kept silent watch by his side, ready to fill the quiet with warmth and light, just as it had done for generations before. And so, the cottage rested under the stars, wrapped in the quiet magic of a winter's night, where stories never end, and peace always finds a way home. Thank you for joining us on this peaceful journey tonight. At Story Planet, we believe that every story is a gateway to comfort, reflection, and connection. We hope Henry's tale and his faithful radio have brought you a sense of warmth and belonging. Remember, no one is ever truly alone as long as we have stories to share. Until next time, may your nights be calm, your dreams be sweet, and your heart be filled with the magic of storytelling. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, share, and subscribe to Story Planet. Your support helps us bring more cozy stories to warm your heart and soothe your mind.